gone, I motion that we elect Don Busenbark to be the mayor pro tem this meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah. Check it, choo-choo, right? All right, I'll sit in the mayor's chair so I can act like an official. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Roosevelt City Council. We haven't picked anyone for the prayer or the Pledge of Allegiance. Cody, would you do the prayer? And then I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to meet here. We're thankful for this city that we live in, and we ask that we can be guided this evening and make decisions with best of our knowledge and ability that will help out those who live in Roosevelt and help us to be prudent and understand that we're making those decisions with taxpayer dollars and do that to the best of our ability. We're grateful for this area that we live in. We're very thankful for all those who sacrifice so much for the things that we have in this great country that we live in. We ask that we can have a good evening, and those who are driving can be safe, and they say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please stand and follow me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You noticed the mayor wasn't here, but I didn't state that. So appreciate having a full council. The minutes went out. Did everyone get a chance to look at those, and if there's any corrections or? I had one I gave to Sunshine earlier, one typo. Other than that, I didn't see any.
I move to approve the minutes.
Councilman
Are there
White,
two meetings in there or just one?
just one. Councilman White, need a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilwoman Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, it's now time for our public comment period. If you'd like to make a comment, please come up to the podium, state your name. Each person can have up to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Committee appointments. Mr. Bate, do we have any? Okay. Recognitions? Thank you. Chief has the fire statistics.
Just come present our end of the year for 2023 fire statistics to the city council and city in general, I guess. We start on the first page there. Our average firefighters responding to fires in the year 2023 had gone up from 2022. Our response time took a big jump this year, 6 extra minutes. We've averaged 11 minutes for quite a few years. Part of that, if you notice down below, we had 29-minute response time for helping BIA. Some of their calls out in the wildland and a lot of time out of that. And then our man hours from 2022 went up 39 hours per fire. A lot of those man hours, I believe, were spent on the Marsan fire. There was a lot of time put on that fire. I was not there. I was out of the country. So the scene went pretty well. I know in a lot of our training, they give us the acronym of what chaos is. Chief has arrived on scene, so that's why it went so good. But it was good. I know they had a lot of support from the community, bringing food and everything else in that regard. And working between the police, the public works and everything else to help keep the road shut down and people out. From what I heard, everything went really well. But I know that's where a lot of our man hours worth of shit was on that Marsan fire. If we go over on the next page, we got a 15% increase in our fires, 2023 versus 2022. 2 years ago was when you had our biggest fire run year, which was 162, so we were just shy of that big year. But it's still a 15% increase from the year previous. And then the same as far as in jurisdiction, they're broke down there on the sides where you can see where our time was spent on the different calls and in the different jurisdictions, what went up or what went down between 22 and 23. The next page is our man hours, which went up 38%. And like I said, a lot of that, we spent a good 12 hours on our stand and then went back 3 or 4 more times for little fires that are still underneath our level. So there's quite a bit of time spent there. And we use those man hour statistics to help us in our billing to the Duchesne County and Uinta County versus saying you didn't have very many calls in your area. Well, they might only have 2, but we were there for more hours, and so we use the man hours when we figure out the billing. So that's why we include that in there. The next page is the difference in jurisdictional runs for each entity. Just so you have an idea of where we spent our time last year versus the previous year. And same thing with the man hours. And you'll notice there was 62% more man hours spent in the city, which once again we attribute to our fire spending this time that was there. So, our responses per truck, our numbers went up, but when I looked at that compared to 2022, they're all pretty close to the same as what we did in 22, other than our extrication truck. It only went out 7 times in 2022 and it went out 15 times. That does not necessarily mean that we have a lot more extrication calls. What we did is, if we have hazmat calls within the city limits, we've been taking that truck with the data letter on it and take care of those hazmat calls just to get that truck running. Because it's not got very many miles for the age that it is. So the next page is just a chart showing the numbers that were on the previous page. The next one is our incidents per day of the week, and our busiest day of the week last year was Saturday, which compared to 2022 was Saturday. I don't go back and look through it close enough. I could probably keep track of it, but a lot of that could probably be attributed to farmers deciding, oh, Saturday morning, let's go burn and kill real quick. And then the wind comes up every Saturday, so, well, it comes up every day, sorry. But Saturday was the busiest year, and our incidents by alarm, about 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock were tied there for the busiest times of the day that we went out. And 2022, it was 10 a.m., 6 p.m., and 8 p.m. It's just interesting where the times fall. We didn't get called out at 2 a.m., but we still have enough middle of the night calls that all of us enjoy. The next 2 pages are there just for your information. Firefighters have to maintain 40% fire calls to be in good standing on fire department bylaws, and 75% of their training meetings. And we include that so you can get an idea of where their numbers are. Anyone that is below that has already been talked to by our executive committee, letting them know that they need to step up the numbers. We watch it on a quarterly basis to see what's happening and try and help them improve in their attendance on that. We had 4 new ones that I introduced in February or March that joined us last year. All 4 of them have tested Fire 1. 3 of the 4 passed. The 4th one took his 2nd attempt a week and a half ago, so I don't know yet what his results are. And all 4 of them will start a hazmat operations class in February in Duchesne, and then that will get them completely certified to the Fire 1 level. We had mentioned last year about our tender. Another reason I bring it up is we got it in 2022 in October, and then it spent about 4 months out getting lettered. So it really got put into service last year. So that's why I'm mentioning the water truck, and then we got the brush truck. I believe it was in October is when we got it and put it into service. So those 2 new trucks have come in pretty handy. The water truck is really nice with the features that it has. The times that we've been able to use it, it's pretty nice to have it. And the brush truck. Everybody's really liking it too. We haven't had to use it yet on a lot of brush fires because of the time of year it was, but it has gone out. It's been a pretty nice, helpful resource. That's what we have, unless you have any other questions.
false alarms, but I know we just recently put into policy the change there. Well, hopefully that helps a little bit with some of that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to make a note of that. Just for your information and press or anyone else that's here, I don't know how many of the public know it because I don't know the idea. Smoke detectors and CO alarms have a lifespan of 7 to 10 years. And a lot of the alarm calls we get, those going off, and we get there and pull the alarm down and go, oh yeah, this is expired, you need to buy new ones. And so that's good knowledge that I don't know how many people know and understand that, but we have a lot of them that are that way, that the alarms are bad, and then our nuisance one that we're hopefully taking care of, so.
Great, well, thank you for your efforts there. Like I said, a lot of work, and we're glad we have you guys here helping us, so thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have a public hearing. Mr. Bake, do we have to go in separate public hearings for each of these?
We probably should because they're unrelated.
Okay, and that's what I wondered. And then, do we need to have any discussion first? Do you need to introduce them? And then we'll go to a public hearing?
That would be best.
Okay, let's do that then. Whoever's doing the resolution 2024-321, amending the consolidated fee schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Pro Tem.
Right there. So the fee schedule tonight, we have a couple modifications to that to be presented tonight. The first is from the police department, and this will be on their training. We have some officers here that can explain that a little bit. And then we also have a fee schedule amendment from K&K Sanitation, and they're here to explain that as well. And so I'll turn the time over to them to introduce those two sections.
Jared Harrison, Sergeant Jared Harrison. So the purpose behind what we're trying to propose is we've been trying to sponsor some training for the specifically through the police department with K9, where we have trainers come out and we need a way to provide them for room and boards, things of that nature. And so we're proposing a fee schedule for that to provide a way for the trainers to be taken care of by our department to give them an incentive and a reason to come out and assist us in our training.
Also to take the money that they pay for these trainings, other agencies pay for these trainings as well, and incorporating that towards, we have no way to take the money now and then utilize that money to pay the instructors.
Instructors.
And we say to do that, not only just for us, but, citywide, if we want to have a big training of some sort, this would help.
Any questions? How often do they come out for training?
This one we've been developing, this will be our second time we've hosted this training. Last time we didn't have this in place, so it was a little harder to provide a way for the instructors. For us, we're going to try and make this at least a yearly. It would depend on, now that we have that, if we can get this taken care of, we'll have the ability to host more. So there is potential that we may have other instructors come in for other types of training, not specifically like, in this case, it was the K9 that was brought up.
Right.
But we can sponsor more trainings.
Cut down on a lot of expenses as far as us traveling all around everywhere, paying hotel fees and all that for us, for lots of officers when the money just come here. So we're proposing.
Any other questions from the council?
I had a comment though, just,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to put a plug in. I was able to go last week and take my daughter and work with these officers and their dogs, and I was impressed. It was a lot of fun, and they talked me into putting on the bite suit, and that was pretty cool. So I'd recommend you guys try it.
I've ridden around with a couple officers and had a good experience, but I haven't done the K9. I have to try that one.
I learned a lot. There's a lot of work that goes into that. I wasn't aware, so.
We have put in a lot of hours with our dogs. We spoke with the customer about that when they came and visited us. And so we're happy if you guys ever want to come. It gives us time with our dogs and training, so.
Thank you. Appreciate that. K&K.
Good evening, my name is David Kettle, representing K&K. Tonight on the board there, you can see The Duchesne Wasatch Blue Bench landfill has raised their tippage fees. So as a result, we need to pass those fees on to the customers. We have presented we run some different numbers and stuff, and prior we came to you with a proposal of $1.32 per resident. After further calculations, we based that off of the accounts versus the cans. And we feel here now, after, let's say, further calculation, that $1 per can is a better number. And then in turn, the dumpsters are listed as shown on the chart.
Any questions from council?
Thank you for reworking those numbers. You bet.
Okay, sounds good. So I would entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
I'll make a motion on public hearing for the
The resolution amending
the resolution 2024-321 amending the consolidated fee schedule.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion by Councilman Baird, second by Councilman White. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're now in public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to discuss the fees either for the police or for the garbage can, cake? Sorry. Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
Move that we go back into regular session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White, seconded by Councilman Allen. All in favor? Aye.
Move to approve each of those fee changes.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White to approve the 2 fee changes,
I'll second that.
second by Councilman Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, proposed amendments to Title 16 subdivisions. Are we doing that one? Awesome. Okay, Drew?
Good evening. This will be the most exciting topic of the night, I'm sure. So Title 16 is the subdivision title of our code that the state has mandated that we update to reflect the new legislation. So we have had a public hearing as of 5 o'clock tonight with the planning and zoning body. They have approved. It passed through the body a month ago. We just did not have the public hearing. So now we've had the public hearing. We bring it to you for approval. They would like this to stay in compliance with the mandate approved by February, so that's kind of why this one's important. We didn't have a lot of say in what this one can or can't have in it. It was mandated heavily by the state.
Can you just remind me what, I understand kind of, but can you kind of briefly, was there any?
You can pull that summary up and hit the high points of the changes.
That'd be great, thank you.
A lot of it was what can and can't come to city council. And planning and zoning, they were mandating a little bit of that as far as the process goes.
Is it 16 or 17?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was.
It's all good, I just want to make sure we have the right one.
Sorry, I cannot read that far, so. So you're on your own.
I can read off.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So let's see here. Okay, I'm just trying to look at the ones that are specific. So the ones that are specific to State Bill 174 recommend adding a section that enables the city to promulgate guidelines and checklists to address aspects of SB 174. Adding a designation of a land use authority chart, which provides a summary of related land use applications and their reviewing bodies, recommending bodies, land use authorities, and appeal authorities. This chart also reflects the requirement of SB 174. That's probably going to be the biggest one, is that chart breaking down who is responsible for what and what we can take to a public hearing.
And what we can bring to council and what we cannot bring to council. Right now, we're bringing pretty much everything, but they have mandated that we cannot bring some of the issues or some of the applications for review of the city council.
What kinds of things would they be able to bring to, just as an example?
As far as a plat, I believe it was the final plat cannot come to city council. The preliminary, I believe, can. The final cannot. There was things of that nature for reasons, I'm not sure exactly why, but they have in SB 174, they have mandated a lot of those restrictions, but
I think preliminary review might be one as well, that becomes administrative.
yeah, administrative instead of legislative, so.
Mayor, if I can interject there, one of the purposes behind this is to keep things that are administrative to an administrative nature. So if there's things where people are complying with the law completely, they need to be approved, and there's really no point to bring them to a council when council has to approve them. It could just cause contention. And so things that are administratively done where they've checked all the boxes that is required by law, they are then approved, rather than putting our council in a tough spot when their hands are tied and they have to approve whether they like it or not.
So it doesn't, if they have a disagreement with like planning and zoning or want to change, then they'd still have to come to council, right? That doesn't change anything.
It's a big deal. So, I had a couple comments that I put in there that in the red line version, that I'd just like to go over if we have a minute. I feel like there's a lot of add-ins in this code in chapter 16. I feel like it's really just a lot to approve all at once. And so,
Are we required to approve all of this, 16?
It will be all inclusive, yeah.
But is it following state code? Like, is there any difference?
Yeah, as far as what the recommendations from the RCC, and that's one reason we did employ them was, we extended the contract with them was for this new revision, the mandate from the state on the subdivision.
Can I turn aside yours?
When we met with the planning and zoning body, there was very limited of what we could and could not, the geographic of the chart, the layout of the chart, we had them critique it to a more user-friendly, but other than that,
so if you'll go up, that's like way further down. My first comments are up, probably right where the chart is, or a little bit above it. Yeah, no problem. Oh, wait, no, that's it. That's probably my first comment, sorry.
Okay, yeah, scrolling down looking for him, so.
So anyway, I did, I guess that was what they passed Senate Bill 174-4 was for those checklists and stuff. And I was thinking, do we have a plan for putting those together? I guess we don't really have a choice. We have to put those together.
right, correct. So, and they are helping us with that. I think if we get basically the body in this, that SB 174 requires, those checklists, they did send those over it should be in there, because we did have them on the request to change some of those checklists to a more user-friendly of what we, and the planning commission felt like would be a more user-friendly checklist. And I believe it was included in this revision here. I'm not sure it would be.
Would it be farther down? Should I keep scrolling?
Yeah, keep scrolling. We did give them that direction.
Yeah, I think that'll simplify the application process for us.
Looks like there's 61 pages. It may take a while to get
Yeah.
to it.
And the planning body felt the same way, and staff did as well. So they were supposed to have that update somewhere.
Okay, well, I'm sure it's in there. But there's a lot of purple, which is all added text to this.
Right.
And so I feel like there's a lot we need to look at. I've read all the way to page 25. Put my comments in where I felt,
questions or thoughts, but
Might
there's like 61 pages, I believe.
Yes.
So in the summary table, it might be worth to noting if there's any changes that aren't a result of this SB 174.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to have clarification as to what is required by SB.
Do we have to do this today, or can we prove it next?
I think we could put it off a month. If we have to. I mean, we don't want to consider your action. So,
Okay, so the three that SB 174 is requiring that we change in the three areas. It creates a new process that all municipalities and counties must follow for subdivision residential lots. It modifies the internal accessory dwelling IADUs provisions enacted by HB 82. Lastly, the bill creates a penalty for cities and counties who fail to comply with MIHP reporting requirements beginning in 2024. So that's basically the summary of the changes in the requirements.
And you said there was a deadline?
There is a deadline, and it is in February. I'm not exactly sure. The RCC said we need to have it adopted by February, but if we're into February, if we need to put this to the next meeting, I believe we can. If you would like to do that, you still be in compliance.
In this worksheet, the League of Cities and Towns put out a frequently asked question pamphlet on it. A lot of these requirements were mandated to do. We don't have a choice to do, but as Drew said, I think putting it off till the next meeting, we could do if we want more time to review it.
yeah, I think the hard thing is that we're doing our code revisions at the same time as we're trying to incorporate this. And so it'd be great to incorporate that and then maybe, and I know we do have deadlines on this too, but I'd just like to be able to review it all and just discuss it all before we make a full decision for the whole code.
Well, and this one was kind of put on the priority list just because of the state mandate of February. The other portions of the codes that we're reviewing, we had to tell, like, we did contract until March with the RCC group.
What would it do? I don't know that it's possible, but we could say, yes, we will adopt the state mandated parts of this code, but we still want to work on the rest of it. That way, I think we've approved what the state wants, and then if we want to still work on it, then we should be covered either way. Read it.
Sure. And if we kick this to the next meeting, that'd give a few weeks that you can dive back into with any questions and make the comments on there that we can address before the next meeting.
Yeah, and I probably addressed a lot of the comments I have outside of this meeting with staff and different, maybe.
Would we need to have another public hearing next time if we, or can we? So we probably, if we're gonna not make a decision, we probably don't, we could just table it to next meeting and then have another public hearing then. Is that possible?
Do we have a work meeting?
Sunshine seems to question.
Oh, I'm wondering if there's substantive changes to this, will we need to have another public hearing in planning and zoning as well? Because if so, we may want to plan for that. Because I would assume if we're not, if it's not going to be this, it would need to go through planning and zoning again as well.
It would really depend how many changes are made.
I wonder if we could have RCC put together, just like maybe highlight the sections that are particularly, that are specific to those new mandates, and then we could approve those and then just have an extra week or two to look over the other stuff.
Okay.
So
We can reach out to them tomorrow and see if they can keep that. Shout to you.
I think that's it. I'd like that if we could do that, if we could just.
It's possible, so I'll get on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, thank
So
you.
is there, do we have a motion?
I'll motion that we table this till our next meeting, but will we, so this was a public hearing, right?
We
Were
haven't
we
opened.
supposed to go into public hearing on this? Okay. That I tabled it, or I motion that we table this discussion of the public hearing till our next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Baird to table. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we'll go ahead and plan for that next month. Thank you. Fiscal year 2024 budget reopen and adjustment. Is that you, Rhonda?
No, we're going to.
Oh, I forgot we're skipping that. Thank you. I didn't get the updated list, so just keep me on track. All right, resolution amending the consolidated fee schedule, didn't we already do that?
Yeah.
Separate, right? Yep, perfect. Proposed amendments, Title 16, we tabled that. Fiscal year, we put that away. Procurement policy, man, we're moving right through this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So tonight I gave each one of you a copy of the procurement policy, and I'll discuss this a little bit more later on about the purpose of having the work sessions. But what we'd like to propose tonight is I'm gonna explain a couple of things in the procurement policy that are of concern to staff. And then I marked those in your packets, so you can go home and review those. And I'd like you to take some time to review it, rather than us requesting changes tonight, the first time you've read it. We'd like you to have time to read over those, see if there's concerns you have. We'll come back next meeting, have a just discussion on that. At that meeting, staff will also have a red line version where you can see some of our specific concerns. And then the goal is the following council meeting, the second one in February, have one proposed for adoption. That then the public will have plenty of time to hear those proposed changes and understand why you're making those. So we'll go through the packet briefly tonight. And as I said, I just want to point out a couple things tonight. I'm not requesting any changes, just some of the concerns that staff has. So if we go through on page 6, it talks about, there's a section in there which talks about the city manager is designated as a purchasing agent for the city. It also talks about that he can delegate those duties as necessary to department heads or other employees, and it actually lists department heads. Well, from time to time, the city changes the department layout, so we need to modify that section. For example, it says the Parks and Recreation Director. We now have a Parks Director and a Recreation Director. It also talks about other positions who report to the city manager, such as the city engineer, building inspector, city recorder, and airport manager. We just need to clarify some of that in there as well. Going on to the next page. And again, these are just things that I would like you to read some of these sections. And this one actually goes on section 070. And in the back of your packet, you have the quick flow charts. That's probably the easiest place to read those, and it breaks down the spending approvals for each employee based off position. So as you can see, currently, it just has department heads have $0 to $999, finance director $1,000 to $24.99, city manager $2,500 to $10,000, and then city council anything over $10,000. After discussing this with staff, we'd like to propose some changes there that will come in the future to council. But as a brief example, we feel it necessary that all employees should have the availability or the capability to purchase items if necessary for their job. Now, one thing to keep in mind, everything purchased from a city employee has to be in the budget. So none of this is outside of the budget. The only one that can do that is council, and that's if we modify the budget. So it would still be within the budget. So the proposal will be next time, not necessarily this time, but general employees, $0 to $499. And we've broken apart positions within the city to general employees, division managers, assistant department heads, assistant city manager. Those are different classifications. So general employees, $0 to $499, division managers, $500 to $19.99, assistant department heads, $2,000 to $24.99, department heads, $2,500 to $34.99, assistant city manager, $3,500 to $7,000, and then city manager, $0 to $10,000. And again, one of the key things, we're not looking to increase my spending on it because it's not necessary, but we do want to make it so if the employees need to go buy something within the budget, within their department, that they can go do that without unnecessary steps. And so we'll explain that more in detail at the next one. That's a good section to read. Section 090, small expenditures. It talks about in there $2,500 to $24,999 constitute small expenditures. And these are things that are pursuant to the informal bidding procedures. And we'll get to that section in a minute. The proposal there would be to raise that to $5,000 to $24,999. A lot of these spending limits are just based off of inflation, how times have gone, what used to cost a certain amount, and what it costs nowadays. So going on, and there'll be a lot more than what I'm presenting tonight. I will have a full red line version of why expenditures, why 5,000. The procurement policy has a lot of examples. So that'll be all explained in the next red line version. On page 9, the informal bidding procedures, and that is where we're talking about the 2,500 to 2,499. So for that, we're requesting a $5,000 minimum on there. That still does require 3 quotes from potential responsible providers of the supplies. And it talks about in there why that amount is there. So that'll be in the red line version as well. Also in that section, many places within the procurement policy, it talks about the city manager and finance director. Historically in Roosevelt, the finance director was the assistant city manager. As we know, that position changes. And so not in every place, because there is a lot of places where finance director should remain because she is over the finance department. But in certain places, it would change from finance director to assistant city manager. That will all be clearly defined in the red line version. So in some locations, but it's not a one strike all, because our finance director, definitely with the finance department, still needs to be in some of those sections. Then moving on to page 13 is another example where times have changed as we have different drawers throughout the city. It does say that we can only have over $200 in those drawers. Well, to break change, we're requesting a $300 change there. Again, a minor change, but as we know through time, that does change throughout the city. And those limits can be reduced with the finance director and the city manager on that one as well. Okay, moving along to the next page. Asset and inventory management. This is a unique one, the way it's worded here for capital assets. Most cities that I've been with, capital assets are anything over $1,000 or 3 years lifespan. Here, our capital assets were $5,000 in a 2-year lifespan, which seems rather high. But if you read down into the section, it explains what our capital assets are. It includes land improvements, building improvements, machinery, equipment, vehicles, trucks, easements, water rights, infrastructure assets. Those are not simple capital assets. And so the minor $5,000 minimum, if we could buy a truck for $5,000, that would be wonderful. Capital asset is much more than that, so we will have a red line version of increasing that amount, but also increasing the durability or the lifespan of some of those items, because a lot of those items will last longer than 2 years. The next page, there's some changes. And that's where we have the surplus of property. Currently, we have surplus of property, and it was defined based off a position. A department head could surplus anything within their spending limit. And then the finance director, anything within their spending limit. City manager, the same, and then council, the same. It does leave in there that the city manager can modify things, and that we already have modified that one. And right now, there is a section that no employee shall obtain a personal benefit in the disposal of city personal property. Council has already modified that one. The reason I'm bringing that up now is we'd like to make that more formalized to where anything under $10,000, the city manager, and these are, what's the word? The not proposed value. Assessed value, thank you, Councilman. The assessed value is under $10,000, the city manager could approve. Anything over that would have to come to council. That just clarifies it a lot easier, so when things are getting done, it's the same process, and we're using the same standard on everything, rather than having different departments do different things. We'll have a red line version on that one. And then on page 17, this is the charts that simplify things. This is a standard useful life table. This chart does not match the federal table. The federal table is a lot more extensive and works a lot better. For example, it has mobile communication devices, so a cell phone would be a 5-year lifespan. We wish we could use cell phones for 5 years. We know that's not a reality these days. Computers, the federal standard has a 3-year lifespan. This has a 5-year. Again, we just need to modify this and keep up. We know technology is always changing. So we'll have some red line versions as I meet with department heads to discuss that. The next page, page 18, is that quick chart. We'll have another breakdown chart with the proposed, with the different sections for general employees, division managers, assistant department heads, assistant city manager, and then council on there. So you see the flow chart of what the approval process is, because we still want to make sure every approval process is followed. We just want to make sure that it is clearly defined and usable. Now on page 19, the same thing, that will change the small expenditures from 2,500 to 5,000 minimum. So a lot of these things on here, and this is just a procurement policy on this. We have discussed this with our department heads. I've asked for their feedback. We have recommendations from them. As well, in the red line version, we have recommendations for our Arts, Parks, and Rec committee and our other committees that do have budgets of what their expenditure limits are as well. Currently, and we're going to talk about Arts, Park, and Rec in just a minute. They have a budget. There has been a lot of confusion about what they can expend. They're not employees, but they should be able to expend finance or money because they're given money from council. So that will be clarified in the procurement policy as well, and clearly defined of what they can spend based off if it's done by the chairman, if it's done by a subcommittee, if it's done by the committee as a whole. And so I know that was throwing a lot at you, and that's why this 20-page document I'd like to send home with you. Before next council meeting, so by next week I'll send you out an emailed red line. So you'll have plenty of time to review that. Next meeting we'll discuss it in a work session format so we can have conversation, get feedback. And then the following meeting, when we bring it back before the public, it will be clearly defined with no ambiguity. So council, staff, committees, everybody understands what is required of them and how to comply with the policy to a T. Are there any questions at this point? Again, without diving into specifics, but any general questions as far as, all of our department heads have been diving over the procurement policy, so they would love to answer any very specific questions. They have been diving into it quite a bit and have done a great job. So they are here if you have questions on it.
Interesting, last time this was looked at was approved in 2016, and Councilman White's the only one on there from that was a part of the first time it was approved.
So any problems with that, we know who to blame.
I appreciate all the work and the pointing out those things, and I appreciate that you'll send us a red line so we can make those comparisons, and I agree. I think some of these numbers were great when they were set up and probably more than they needed, but as things go on, it starts to make things a little harder to do your job. And we still want to make sure there's checks and balances, and that way, like I said, it's in the budget, it's been approved that way. These are not our funds, these are the, funds we get from the people to try to do what's best for the, Roosevelt. So, other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your work. All right, next page, we're on the recommendation for amendments, is that correct, for the Arts Park? Thank you, Sunshine.
Okay, so we do have a quick explanation of a concern. So Arts Park and Rec reached out to Sunshine with a proposal of what they want to do. At their last meeting, there was some concern that might be a little conflicting. Were any of the council members at the last Arts Park and Rec community meeting? Okay, so I would like Sunshine to introduce what she was presented, and then we'll have Aaron kind of talk about what was at that meeting, because they're both really good things, and council, we do need some direction of which way to go, because it's about UBIC, and we do not want this event to fail. We need to make sure that it continues forever and ever, because it is a phenomenal event. So that's why, even though it's kind of an awkward situation, we want to make sure that we're at least up to date in what some of the conversations have been. And I'm sorry to.
Right, so originally, the chair and the secretary of the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Committee reached out to me because they had made a vote to appoint Vanessa Oaks as the chair for the UBIC subcommittee. And in discussing that with those two, we realized there's several areas of concern just in the resolution. And I came across the definition of resolution that I really liked, that I thought was super helpful. I just want to share it with everyone. Resolution is basically a long form motion. It's just a big document that really demonstrates the will of the council over a particular issue. So, kind of keep that in mind when we're discussing this. In addition to needing to add the UBIC subcommittee, if that's what they actually end up wanting to do, that would need to go in resolution since the other subcommittees are established in the resolution. Whether or not they add that subcommittee, it might be worth looking at the subcommittee section. I sent out the most recent resolution to everyone. You may not have had a chance to look over it, but the section that establishes the subcommittees doesn't do anything to address their powers and duties, their role really substantively, their authority, that kind of thing. There have been discussions about, the subcommittee will vote in favor of something, but that may or may not happen in a public meeting. So there's just some procedural power issues in that section that would be really helpful for everyone if it were addressed. Like Mr. Bake mentioned, getting the procurement really dialed in so that they are really clear on what needs to happen and everything is as easy as possible on their end and on our end and working with them. What else? Oh, and then grants. The resolution specifically calls for the committee to seek out grant funding for their projects, which is great. We want that. But they don't have the authority to do that, right? So establishing some sort of guideline within the resolution for how that needs to happen, I think would also be very helpful for them as well as for staff. Because at this point it's, we hear Parks and Rec wants this grant, well, what's the best way to facilitate that and determine if it's something we should go for or not. So those are just some sections of the most current resolution that, again, regardless of what happens with the UBIC subcommittee, are going to be worth looking at and potentially revising. Aaron, you can, whatever the update was.
Yeah, thank you, Sunshine. She's absolutely right on those final areas of grants and inconsistency of procurement policy and that. In regards to the UBIC committee, there's been discussion. They did want to make a decision on who was going to head that up. And so there was some confusion there at the time of whether it needed to be its own committee or subcommittee, but now they're looking at having that just be completely separate from the APR committee, just with all the moving parts that happens at UBIC, without having to hold different meetings and worry about funding and fee schedules and things like that, of having things on the fee schedule. They're looking at possibly, not them, but UBIC is looking at, Vanessa's looking at just running that, how Chad's been running it separate from the committee. So that sounds like the direction they're going to go.
So currently, like in the past, Chad has run the whole thing and kind of had a little group of people, and it's been turned over to the city to plan for UBIC. Is that, so the city is now taking over the UBIC planning?
Not necessarily the city, but another individual who sits on the APR committee,
Okay.
but won't be part of.
So it's not gonna, so this won't affect our Parks Rec at all, and she's just gonna head it up.
Yes,
So really, we don't need anything
approval
from the city as part of
They have
it.
their own funding and accounts and their own.
I was gonna recommend that they
Yes.
separate from the city, but that's
Yep.
what you're saying.
It will be separate from the city and this committee, so. Unless something changes, but that's the direction they're looking at.
I like that.
So recommendations are that we address,
I would still appreciate any feedback you have and think it would be helpful to look at revising that resolution to provide a little bit more guidance for the Arts Parks and Rec Committee and the staff that assist them. But the UBIC portion is no longer relevant.
So my thought is, like, we really ought to work with Grant to draft up what the Arts Park and Rec Committee would want to see. Me and JR and I, and Dustin, we established this committee a few years ago, and Grant drafted up the original, and we kind of had our ideas mayor had strong opinions how to do it too, so, but, you know, it's been going, I've been happy with what we've seen so far.
If I remember correctly, when we were doing this, we can't give authority to a committee to do something that the council has to do, and I think that's why it was written the way it was. So if there are things that have come up that can be included in the resolution that still fit that mold, I see no reason to add them in there. But it was more, they just do the bidding of, we kind of tell them what we want and then they go see how to make it work.
I think one of the big things has been the procurement issues in terms of them buying stuff and getting reimbursed and some confusion on the process, et cetera. And so I think we definitely need to clean that up, but we need to clean up the procurement, but we may need to include it with the resolution. And by the way, it should say modifying, not modifying on the top there. But anyway, I know you didn't do it. I just, if they want to clarify something, that might be a good start. But anyway.
One thing, just so council's aware, I met with Grant last week on this. He's already started working on this because he said the original intent was to make subcommittees capable of spending funds, but the way it's written, it's not that way. He's going back to try to do what the original intent was, draft up something to bring to council to make sure that's the current council's intent. So he's already on top of it. He just unfortunately is not here tonight. But he is working on this and he's working on some of these other actions to make sure the committee continues to function and the council wants it to. So yes, he's on top of this already. He's already started drafting.
Good, yeah.
He's on top.
So it sounds like we don't really need any action tonight, just direction, and I think you followed the direction. Did they ever figure out the Alex Sharp issue and the funds? Have they approved that yet in their meeting?
They've not had another meeting.
Okay. Well, that was one of the issues that was come up, so. All right. Anything else on that? Okay, planning and zoning. Drew, looks like you got a list for us.
Quick. All right. Okay. So the first item on this planning and zoning list would be Blaine Winterson rezone request. This will be just west of Moon Lake's Warehouse and Summerall Lane. The request would be, that was just some history, that was all rezoned to commercial when Moon Lake came in with their development there. And so these parcels were changed from a residential to a commercial status. So Blaine has come in and petitioned that we rezone his lot to match the property to the north, which would be in continuous and touching to the R120 zone, and has passed through planning and zoning public hearing last month, this last go round of our meetings, I guess it was last month. And approved through that body, and we're looking to approve through this body.
Questions from council?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second that.
A motion from Councilman Allen to approve and a second by Councilwoman Goodrich. All in favor? Any opposed?
Just a note on that as well, Blaine is working with the neighbors as well to possibly rezone the whole section of residential to Highway 40. Staff would agree that would probably be the best use, so we're working towards that in the future.
Okay. And I voted I just forgot to say anything. I'm trying to weigh both things, but anyway. Okay. Next one.
Okay, Summer Hill's final plat amendment. This is Annette and Bart Miller's property on 191. Are you all familiar where this is at, behind the blue apartments?
Yeah, behind the blue apartments.
Okay. They came several years ago, some of you may remember, and rezoned and found out that it was already zoned to PLR. So this is that property. They are looking to develop this property.
Didn't we approve this and sign it last week, or last council meeting?
That was the
The
preliminary.
So this will be the final plat. So this is, just a side note, this is what some of the House will
Okay,
will clean out
okay.
the redundancy. So just a side note on that. So just the key on this one, the east side of this development, they have consolidated, I believe there's about 9 or 10 lots. They are consolidating into 3. 7, 12 on the east side. So 12 into 3 lots. So that would be the major change why we have to amend the plat and have them re-recorded. We should have construction, well, there's a little conflict in the construction docs, so we're working through a few things, the developer and the engineers working through some easements for some storm drains before we bring it back for the construction view. So we would like to see a improvement on the amended plat.
So planning and zoning was okay with this before, and any other questions?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman White,
I'll second it.
second by Councilman Baird. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Next one. Pull this up and give it an explanation.
And Wilson minor subdivision.
Scroll down just a little bit. Yes, there you go. Okay, so Nicole Wilson, I'm just gonna step over here, if that's okay. Currently owns these 2 parcels here. The home resides here on this parcel. Chris Anderton owns this lot, these 4 individual parcels. We'll take care of that one after we do this one. We're petitioning to do a split and split off the portion that has the shed or the garage on the back of it, which would still leave enough square footage to be in compliance with the zone requirements for that area, as well as this. The next motion would be to combine this lot with Chris Anderton's existing lot. So we will need to do this in 2 different motions, first being Nicole Wilson's lot split. And if there's any questions, just a key note, this does have water. We have confirmed it is on a separate connection, a separate account, so it will not be tied to the existing home.
Questions
Same
from
with
council?
power? Same with power?
Yes. So, yeah, yes. And yeah, so everything's separated on the accounts.
So, my question is, speaking about both projects, so they meet all the requirements of the law as far as zoning requirements and everything else? There's nothing that would contradict what we've got in our laws?
The only thing that would be, and they're not doing this in this case, would be to create the portion of Nicole's lot that we're splitting off and sell that independently, which it cannot. It has an outbuilding without a home on it, which would be in.
Okay, but since it's combining,
Correct.
and there's no rules against having multiple outbuildings or garages or
There
things
would
like
be on the 30% of the property. We cannot cover 30% of the grounds with this zone, which this would not be even with the addition.
Okay,
So we've looked at all those
Okay.
aspects.
then sounds good.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the Wilson Minor subdivision.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And
Then we would need to do the Chris Anderson lot line adjustment, which would combine that split portion to Chris's existing house lot.
Move to approve.
okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman White,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Can you wait for the mayor, or do you need me to sign it as a pro tem?
You can sign it.
Oh, cool. See what you missed out on? I don't. I don't say worse than you. You're at least in the medical field. You have an excuse. I'm gonna take you out of your excuse. I forgot where am I at? So should I put pro tem?
Yeah.
Pro tem, just so if anyone were to ask. Pro tem. There's a special pen. Rhonda has much better handwriting than I do. You probably have better handwriting than me.
I tried to get her to.
So it's like Mayor Booze. I should do that sometime just for fun. Next time I'll go down the park sometime. Put Mayor Booze on it just for fun. Thank you. All right. Man, we're moving along here. Wonder who got on 7 o'clock. Over multiple people. Okay, code enforcement.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is just a discussion we're bringing before council. We know code enforcement has been an issue with the city for quite some time. Council's expressed interest in doing this. Meeting with our new councilwoman here, we decided this is a great opportunity to bring the idea up again. We have multiple options that we want to present to council, and tonight we're just looking for general direction, and then we can bring back specifics with different examples of what other communities do, the budgetary impacts, all of the details. But we want to make sure we're heading down the right direction tonight. We have the proposal from chief, one from our planning and zoning. There's options of full-time, part-time, 2 part-time, 2 full-time. There's many needs the city has, and we just would like to present those briefly to council for some consideration, and then have you just give us some direction, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting. There is nothing in the budget right now for this. However, we do feel it is something that should be a council priority. We can, next time we open and amend the budget, add that to the budget so we can fulfill this need for the city. So first, I'll turn the time over to Chief. He has a wonderful proposal, and then turn the time over to Drew, who also has a proposal from planning and zoning, and then answer some questions, and then just kind of get some direction from council.
I didn't know actually I was gonna give a speech. We have a desperate need for animal control. We have animal control issues. My proposal was that we combine the 2 positions of ordinance officer and animal control. And we put that under the police department. My suggestion would be a non-certified position, because we'll be able to find better qualified people. I'm not going to be able to find a certified officer to fill that position. Also, would probably or we pay a little bit less than what a certified officer is for as well. There's several folds on this. If we combine the animal control, start getting some of the animal problems and issues under control, we can serve the public better by instead of our animals going to the animal shelter, which is going to cost us money because they have to stay there, 3 days? We have the 5 days put in there, and that costs us money. If we can circumvent the animal shelter, and we all know the discussion of the animal shelter, we've had issues with it being full and the cost of that as well. With the ordinances, Drew does wonderful. You want to come out of the police department, we're going to take him for this position. If you, no. Okay. I mean, that's something thrown at me. But the way he's doing it right now with some letters and some visits and such, it also doesn't actually put a uniformed law enforcement officer up front in confrontation or so forth with the public, which I think that is crucial. We can do it the civilized way. The only time that I would get involved with my officers is if we have definitely no compliance. And I would suggest that would probably be the best roundabout way, serving 2 issues that we've been talking about before. Any questions on that? Oh. You just as good as Mr. Brake. No question needed. Thank you.
Well, he's got a gun, so we'll go with this. This kind of got talked about this morning. So it's been an ongoing lack of manpower in this area. Obviously, it's been one of my responsibilities to do the code enforcement. It is hard to, without the backing of an actual officer on the ground, boots on the ground. We do what we can, and we do issue the letters and everything else. We have talked about in the past, we do have a lot of growth on the horizon of Roosevelt. We've got a lot of subdivisions, talk of subdivisions, and a lot of planning that goes into those subdivisions, pre-planning. A lot of my time should be focused in those areas as well. We're getting to the point where we could use some help in the planning department as far as a plan tech. And the thought was, diversify, help with the code enforcing on our end of things that we do, and help in the planning side of things. The day-to-day operations that would alleviate some of my time to do some of the more the nitty-gritty things that the day-to-day operations wouldn't allow me at this point. So we do need to nip the code enforcement topic one way or the other, however that's going to lay. But we also do need some help in the planning side of things to help diversify Roosevelt in the stages that we're at, because we do have a lot, and we need to be prepared. So, any questions for me?
So basically what you're saying is hire a person to cover code and to help you.
If we could, I mean, not taking away
Right.
what they need as well. We do have some needs in both areas as well. So I don't know if that means a few employees or however we want to split that up, but definitely have needs in both areas.
Sorry, if we went with Chief's idea, let's just say that would at least alleviate some of your time, because you wouldn't have to deal with that, but it would help if you had a tech to help as well with.
Definitely. We're to that point. So.
Is there enough between those three things to justify 2 full-time people?
I believe we definitely could. As we mentioned before, not in this body, the police department has their set of code enforcement as well as the land use side. And they do intermingle. They have a total separate issues than we do on land use compliance, the building side of things, the setback requirements, the plan reviews and things like, the compliance with the code with the land use side of things. So definitely could utilize some help. So they're better Roosevelt.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Bake?
The last thing I'll add to that is both these proposals are extremely important to the city. And sooner or later, we are going to need to address both of them. Right now, the reason it's coming to council is when it comes to day-to-day staffing, I oversee that. However, this is definitely a policy decision because neither of these positions currently exist. They are both needed. They are both a high priority. However, it is going to be a policy decision for council. So the reason tonight we have it on for discussions, one, so council can ask questions, give us direction, and two, so we can bring back information about what it will really cost, what are some of the responsibilities they could have, what our time frame is to actually make one of these positions happen should council want. Also, council could also see the information and say, you know what, we need to make do with what we have based off of these concerns, and that just gives us the direction we can go from there. But these are both really wonderful proposals that will need to be addressed in the future.
Just in thinking of this, it seems to me what Chief proposed, somebody doing code enforcement are gonna be out there probably in those areas are more of the animal control issues as well. So it makes sense in my mind that those two go together. And then Plan Tech, I don't know if they would be overlapping in animal control situations as much. That's just my 2 cents. It seems like if we can find enough help or find enough for the Plan Tech to do and help with other things, let's just go with two people full time.
Yeah, I like the idea of 2 as well. I think, so the 2 proposals, one of them is the ordinance officer in animal control, and the other one was like a planner, basically, or tech.
Planning tech, yeah.
Planning tech. I think if we hire planning tech, I really feel like education, there's whole degrees on planning. And I think it would be good if we could try to draw on somebody that's got the talent and understanding of city planning and stuff like that. Obviously, we want to be careful who we hire, but like somebody that understands really well all that stuff might be good. 'Cause yeah, that's just my thought.
I think Drew, if we get a planning tech, I think Drew can train him up on what he needs to do. Drew does a good job for us, and if we had to, I'm just saying, and I know the city, I know Mr. Bake's pretty good about trying to get employees trained and get to trainings when they can, and, and I think, that, there would probably be some requirement there as well. I don't disagree with them, just saying, I think that we may have to, if you get someone with a lot more education, it might cost you more, whereas if we get someone starting out, we might be able to get someone who can start helping sooner and then train them up as to what we need them to do.
So what is your current position, Drew? I'm just curious. What is it? Yeah, what is it?
Nobody knows, that's why it's invaluable.
So he isn't the city planner, is
So he's
he?
the planning and zoning division manager, which would be the city planner as he's working toward. To
Okay,
be a city planner, you have to take so many years of, you can either do it through education or through time as serving as a planner, and then you can get AICP certified, and he is definitely on that track.
okay. Well,
He
that's
is
great.
also certified as a building official, which is a huge asset as well. So
So I didn't mean to discount by any means your training and your understanding of how things work planning wise, and I fully endorse you as our city planner as that happens. So, but I just, I was just thinking kind of, he's getting all the training that I guess we just need somebody to help him. So that's great.
I would agree with Councilman Baird White in terms of, I think we need to at least look at two people. I was just wondering, since we're gonna be talking about next budget, it might be easier to, instead of reopening a budget, getting someone now. I know it'd be great if we had them tomorrow, but it might be easier to put in the budget. Maybe we could start advertising, knowing that the position starts July 1 or something. We could maybe advertise earlier, but that's my thoughts is, instead of opening the budget for these two, why don't we're gonna be talking budget here pretty soon. I'm saying, let's try to see if we can fit them in the next budget. We'll have good numbers. We'll kind of know where we're at as a city. I agree they're needed, and then we can look at it that way. And that'd be my recommendation. If you really feel like you need them tomorrow, I would need some ways, maybe to find some money to do that, and that would be my concern. But if they're willing to put the legwork into finding the money for it, I'd be willing open to that. But I think it'll just be easier if we get it approved, knowing that it can start July 1. That's when we have budget for those positions. I think that would be great.
I'm kind of thinking that I like both options. I don't know which one's better, but it might be good to start with one and then add the other two. Like if we started with the chief's proposal, that would take some weight off of Drew, and then he could kind of fill out what more he needed. There might be an option too to look at, modifying for one of those and starting and seeing where we're at and going from there too.
that would definitely be staff's recommendation. If we were to move ahead with one position, that would just be one. Definitely, this is my recommendation, not to do both right now. We can look back at what it would cost for each position, bring that back to the next council meeting. That gives you time to think about what is a greater priority. Talk to the residents, is it this one a priority or is that? That way, next meeting, we can bring those presentations, those proposals, and you can say yes, no, wait. You can decide more fully then. This was more of a proposal of, let's get to that next step. So we weren't looking for a definitive answer tonight, other than should we keep going down this direction, or we could just wait till July if you wanted. We are going to start budgeting for next year. By March, we're hoping to have a tentative budget. We want to start a little earlier. But it is something that we could get with Rhonda. or on it. We'll work with her and see if we do have the funds available to do one position right now, but definitely not both.
I think if we had one starting now, that would get a jump start on things before July.
Spring is a huge time.
Spring is a
for
huge time,
so
yeah.
that is
I'm not anti that, like I said, my concern would be budget, so. Councilman Allen, did you have any thoughts?
No, that's what I would like to hear.
We'll have that next meeting.
Any other, we have a question from you.
I just have a question. Who's going to back up the animal control person with the chief's proposal? That guy's not going to be able to do it 24/7. So, yeah, who's on call for that?
The animal control and the animal trust wouldn't be there, my officers would feel it as if I were doing that. We have a little bit of modifications of that. Right now, one of the biggest issues is I don't want stray animals next to my service dog. $15,000 dogs, and some of the way we transport, so that's an issue. So if we can curtail that till the animal control officer's on, like have the regular patrol when the officer or animal control is not on, take care of the basic issues, or running at large, or finding who they belong to, or something like that, we can make do with that. The major things for the animal control can be helped till they come on shift. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't want the stray animals next to my 2 toddlers either.
Yeah.
That are worth more than $15,000. But I had it recently, and I dealt with your officers, and it wasn't a very good experience. So I'm for the animal control, but I need to understand who's going to back them up, because there's no way that one person's going to be able to cover.
And, so basically the officers would take care when the person's not on duty. Do you have maybe numbers, Chief, of when you have most of the animal issues? Is it usually during the day?
Typically, we can get that for you. Yeah.
I'm just thinking maybe if we knew that, then we might say, you know what, the shift would be 10 to 6 or something, as opposed to, you know, what, because I would think the shift could be decide what you think the most common times are, as opposed to, 8 to 5 or whatever.
My experience in other cities has found that dogs know when the animal control is out. So it would not be a set schedule, no. And it would be where most calls are at, and it would flush.
Well, maybe that's something else we need to consider, is what the hours would be, and, I think that would be important to know. So.
I'll get some numbers, bring them back to council, and just so you're aware, both options are very common in a lot of cities. It's done both ways and works very well both ways. We'll bring that back to council.
Great, thank you. You have 11 that says action items. I assume that's just ignore that. Okay, the financials went through. Did everyone get a chance to look at those? Was there any questions? I entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve.
We have a motion by Councilman Allen to approve the expenditures.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilwoman Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Capital project updates. You made it out with your camera, your drone. Not this picture, but.
It was a bad day for the drone. We'll find out here in a minute. First of all, before I get into the projects, probably one important one that you may probably ought to be aware of is our flag. You noticed today they took it down and wasn't able to take it back up, the new one. So the pulley system is down again, which has brought really a lot of concern to us, thinking we can't deal with this every time. So the company's looking into it. They may have to make some adjustments and make a better product for us, because it's a beautiful flag and it's a good project. We just want it to last.
Right.
So anyway, the 22nd of February is when that's due to be fixed and back up. So what we have here is the Innovation Hub. Doesn't look real great right now, but that's progress to me. Things tore up. The metal roof that's coming, it's going to be a dark gray that matches the aquatic center. It should be here in about 2 weeks. installed in 2 weeks. Today, the stucco guys started, on the front, and that's kind of what you see right there is the scaffolding out, and they're getting ready to put stucco out, so. Here pretty soon you'll see plastic all around it and keeping it warm, and they did put the new windows in. When you go inside, it actually opens it up, I think, quite a bit and lets in a little bit more light, so I think it'll be great. It'll be good. Just another update on the Innovation Hub as well. The January 30th is our pre-bid meeting. So that makes it to where there's 2 weeks and we can award the bid for our council meeting, the next council meeting, so on the 6th. Okay, what do we got next? Sunshine. Okay, so today I walked up there at the ball fields. From the road, it doesn't look like they're doing a whole lot, but when you actually walk out in there and roam around, they're doing quite a bit, and we're pouring a lot of concrete. As you can see in the pictures, they've done the infill, the red dirt is spread out. And then the interior, so leave it at that picture right there for a minute. That's the dugout, the little jog out right there. All that will be cement and concrete. Where I'm standing. And they're pouring that a chunk every day. Like they poured some this morning too as well.
Does the baseball committee or the arts part, whoever's, are they kind of looking at this too as it goes through?
Yeah.
Just kind of seeing what's happening. If there's any
Yeah, we have a
concern.
monthly meeting up there at Dustin's office.
Okay.
And sometimes we make a field trip over there. Right now, not a whole lot of changes there other than concrete. That's kind of you can see the pillars in the middle, that's the light post. All the posts are up for the lighting. They're not gonna stand them until spring. So when you see those go up, you'll start to notice a big change up there as well. And all the accessories are being ordered. Dustin's doing a good job. He's not here tonight, but. Oh, there it is. You're like quiet over there in the corner, dude. Wow. I apologize. I gotta take you to dinner.
Good thing we're saying good things about him.
Good things, but now that he's here, I'll just keep going on. Yeah, he's got all the roofing ordered and the shaders and the bleachers and stuff like that coming, so we're on top of it. So when it all is ready for us, we can just install the accessories and be good. So the good thing with this project, we are still on schedule to be done for that first big tournament in June, correct? May 31st. I was gonna say June 1st or whatever. May 31st.
And the only concern I've had from the community, just a couple of people asked me about parking. I know we were talking about trying to get an easement to the east there, kind of by the skate park, some sort of parking or something. I don't think it was an easement, but you know what I'm saying, something to help with parking.
We haven't reached out. We got parking on that east side, that lot there that's just east of the skate park. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I know we own some property, but it's in the corner there and it's not a good spot. I mean, I'm just wondering just asking.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's probably something we need to be talking about and thinking and hashing it over so we're prepared for the future. I know the property on the west side was proposed to us to be bought to as well, so, but we haven't got into the weeds as far as getting serious.
Well, if it's gonna be open June 1st or May 31st or whatever, we probably ought to be considering that. I mean, we don't have to have it that day, but it'd be nice if we were working towards something or made arrangements.
Yeah, I understand. Next project I can update you on. Let's see what we have. Okay, so this is a hard picture. By the way, I threw my drone through a tree today, so you're gonna have to deal with these pictures. Apparently they don't like trees. This is East Elementary, no, Kings Peak.
Kings Peak, yeah.
So if you can just kind of vision, that's the trail that's headed west from the park. And with the good weather that we've had, Danny's been able to blaze right on through. So hopefully our goal is to have that ready for pavement, you know, by late summer. So, yeah, we gotta cross the creek twice and go through other properties.
So we need more bridges,
Two.
2 more.
Yep. Right now, I'm working on Rhonda and I's. We've got a reimbursement packet for the grants that we got 21 and 22 through Outdoor Rec. We are getting that filled out. Yeah, I think there's just as much work getting the reimbursement as there is actually the grant.
Well, we appreciate your efforts on that. That's great to get the money, but it's sad that you have to work so hard to get the actual money. You get approved and then you gotta.
Yeah. Well, for both of those phases, that's 300,000 we need to get back. So, and then we'll also be working on applying for the 2024 one as well. If we get it, we'll let you guys approve. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it. It's up to you.
But we're rounding up to get to the golf or by the golf course there. Is that the plan?
I believe so.
Close.
Yeah. Yeah, we will. Currently right now, also on the nature park still, we are doing not a whole lot of activity there, but there is ADA railing that'll be going up in the next couple weeks as well. So if you see somebody down there welding, we're just getting in railing that comes off from the hospital. And that's what they're doing, so.
And how often do you meet at the hospital just to update them on progress? Are they pretty good now?
No, they're good. Our meetings are about every other month, right now, where it's slowed down, so.
I just want to make sure, since they helped with this, that we keep them in the loop, right? I figured you were, I was just curious.
Yep, no, they're in the loop.
Are you going, from the nature park one way or the other first? Are you doing it at the same time? Like from the nature park towards the golf course turn or?
So the first phase consists of going all the way from Strata to the golf course. Right now, we have more land right of ways that's been signed to head west.
Okay.
We can make it all the way. We've got one left and we can make it all the way on the west side. On the east side, we only need a couple more too, but our goal is to have it ready to pave both sides by the end of next summer. However, the east side has got a lot more debris, a lot more service hours that's gonna need to be done. So it depends on how we get things gathered up. There's a lot of debris over there, so this all depends on how fast, because we are doing this in-house.
Yeah.
Danny's doing a lot of the work and it's volunteer work as well. So if we can get more volunteers and projects going, I can see us paving both sides by the end of next summer. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah.
Question there. I didn't go out to the gun range and take any pictures today, but we had our meeting today and I kind of wanted to update you on the gun range. We're still waiting to hear back for that grant. However, there is things that's being done. You guys asked the power line to be relocated and stuff. So Moon Lake's working on that in the next couple of weeks when they can. So hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have the power line moved and out of the way of the 200 range. So that'll be good. And then WCF, I talked to them today and they're contributed a lot to the project. I should do a shout out for Kevin and that bunch because they've helped a lot. And he told me today in the spring, they plan on pouring more concrete and getting a shed going on the 200 range and finishing that road up that's in Ballard. So a lot of things are happening right now. That's most of it. Oh yeah, one more thing though. Teddy's Playground, tomorrow we are gonna finish up on the parking lot for that too as well. Duchesne County's going to deliver some road base and rock. And so Danny's clearing that out better, so drain and everything, so we've been working with Preston and Parks Park and Rec Committee on that as well, so. Any questions?
Good work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
A lot of stuff going on. Thank you for the report. Looks like we've got a lot of great things going. That's why Ron has all those big checks and expenditures as we're starting to spend it now. City manager report, Mr. Bake.
You've heard a lot from me, I'll be super brief. First thing, an update on date change for Parks and Rec Committee, unless things have changed since the last meeting. They've changed our date from the 1st to the 3rd Thursday of every month, and they will not meet in the months of August or December because of UBIC and Christmas. So the 1st to the 3rd of December, there was nothing on the calendar, Sunshine's checked with it, so we should be good. They'll still meet here, no changes there. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is, this meeting, we've talked a lot about giving council information with the hope of bringing it back at a future council meeting. And I'd just like to reiterate our request for a true work session meeting where we can sit around a round table and have those discussions. I think it's imperative that when we present something to council, that you have time to digest it, to decide over it. Rather than, as much as we love the confidence that you put in us and you saying, yes, staff, you're wonderful, go ahead and do it. You are the face of the city, and we want to make sure that your policies are getting put into place. So as we do that, the way it's written on the calendar is the first meeting of each month is a work session. And so even if we keep with this similar format with the podium and council podium or at the desk, we will still try to bring items for you for discussion. And I'll make sure all of the department heads or staff that are involved have those answers. But ideally, we can have more discussion and then try to make some more finalized decisions at the second council meeting. And that way, hopefully, get more engagement and better communication and better, I don't know, continue to work well together, I guess is all I'm saying. Any questions with that?
I just have the one, so obviously, if they're like, for example, the Title 16, Councilman Baird, motion to table till next meeting. If we have things like that, obviously we can still take care of those at the work meeting, but other than that, we want to try to make it a true work meeting, correct?
Correct. So for example, Chief has a recognition for next meeting, and I explained to him that we're going to try and run that as a work meeting, so he will do that at the following one, the second meeting in February. Now, if there were a reason we had to do it that first one, no problem, we can take care of it. But the idea is all of the true action items will be done at the second meeting, more formalized. The first one, more discussion.
I know we've tried that a couple times and then end up going to meetings because we had things come up, so.
Any questions for me about anything within the city?
No, I think things are going great so far, thank you. Committee reports, Councilman White, anything?
Nothing to report.
Councilman Baird? Councilwoman Goodrich? Councilman Allen? I don't have anything to report, but I do, Mr. Bake or Sunshine, for the next meeting. I know Sunshine sent out the list of committees and who was involved, and we haven't discussed those, and I think it would be better if we do maybe push those back and not make any I don't know, recommendations or appointments or whatever you want to call it. Is that okay? Is that okay with everybody else?
Meaning what?
Well, so each councilman usually is over 3 or 4 different committees, and you haven't been assigned yet, and we probably should discuss in case we need to make any changes or if anybody wants to, go to a different committee, that kind of thing. So I think it would be better at the next meeting. I know we need to get those filled, but.
My understanding was that Mayor Bird wanted feedback from all of you about what committees your preference would be, and that he was going to come back with a recommendation. So I think that that's kind of already being addressed as far as holding off a little bit.
Okay, so maybe if you haven't had a chance to look at that, I know Sunshine sent that out on an email. If you just make sure and look at that, if there's any questions or anything that you'd like to adjust or change or whatever, I think we should do that. And let's make sure that's on the agenda for next meeting so we can make those appointments as needed or whatever, or at least discuss it.
And one other thing, Mayor Pro Tem, and council, we do have our vision statement, our mission goals up there that have been here a very, very long time. I would like to recommend that I will get a copy of that, send it out to council. I don't know how many of you were here when that was drafted, but it predates me. I think it would be good for council to establish what those guiding principles are, what the mission statement is. Again, we as staff want to accomplish your goals, and so they might stay the exact same, but I think it would be a good conversation for council to have and discuss those. So I will get that copied out, send it to you an email. We can discuss it at a future council meeting.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Does anyone find out when it was last addressed or looked at? I'm just curious.
During my time, so some of the
Okay.
first few years that I was on council.
Just curious. I didn't know when it was.
And then two more things, I apologize, I should have done this before. One, we will have our Open and Public Meetings Act training coming up soon, next month, so be prepared for that. And the legislative session started today.
Right.
So please keep in mind, if you hear anything, let me know. I participate in the Legislative Policy Committee with the League. Councilman White, you're very involved, and now Councilman Baird, I believe, is now on the board. He is a wonderful asset, and Councilman White's done it for many years. We've got wonderful in there. But there's so much that goes on with the legislature, and we've got to make sure our voices are heard. So please, if you hear anything, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will find answers, get it out to you, get the individuals involved that need to be. A lot of what done, they care about the Wasatch Front. We need to make sure rural Utah is heard. The session is short, so we need to be actively engaged. Every Monday, they have a Legislative Policy Committee meeting. It's from 12 to 1:30. If you're interested, let me know. If it's very important topics, I go out to the legislature. If not, I do it through Zoom. I will warn you, if you do it through Zoom, they do call for votes on things. By the time you make your vote over Zoom, they are on to like 3 topics later. So that's where it's really important to be there on those highly sensitive subjects. But please let me know if you hear something.
One of the councils, we're usually invited once in a while to go like a luncheon and present school boards. No, I thought.
Local Officials Day is tomorrow, the legislature. That has not changed a lot. So I talked with Mayor Bird, he was actually planning on going. It's changed so much that now it's really focused on youth city councils. They do have a luncheon where they have a keynote speaker. This year, I believe it's Governor Cox. That's usually a wonderful keynote, but it's changed so much over the years that it really is geared towards youth legislation. Our legislators that represent us are phenomenal about getting us in. I would recommend, if you really want to meet with them, let's just plan a time and go out. Every time I've done that, they've met with me. I know Senator Winterson has been very great. I spoke with him a lot at the Energy Summit. They're actively engaged. So Local Officials Day technically is tomorrow. I don't know if Mayor Bird is still planning on going. He's having to go to another meeting here, but that's not what it used to be. Maybe our friends in the league might help us out there, but there has been discussion about getting a youth city council from Roosevelt, and then it would definitely be worth going, which I think we can absolutely do.
So I visited with Superintendent Young, and he's for it. I was going to visit with the high school, hopefully this week, and discuss with the administration there about trying to get something going. And I was hoping maybe by fall, when school starts, that we would have our youth city council in place. Obviously, we could do it sooner if they feel like they're ready, but I didn't want to pressure them to try to get it in today or tomorrow. So, but I got approval from Council or Superintendent Jason Young that he's for that. If that's something the city wants to pursue, and so I just need to nominate with the admin. So I'll work on the youth city council part. So
How old are how old would city council be? Would it be high school kids?
High school age, yeah.
From Roosevelt City? Is it gonna be for Roosevelt City? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so they have to be.
Vernal Patterns, theirs, they have a Vernal Youth City Council. However, their mayor was a Naples City resident.
Okay.
So we, I would assume, would do the same. It would be a Roosevelt Youth City Council, but we could have people from neighboring areas come into Roosevelt City. But I would recommend it stay Roosevelt City Council. It'd be sponsored by the
So
city.
they're just an advisory committee, basically, to the council?
Absolutely. So the thing tomorrow, they'll go and they'll hear mock hearings, they'll have mock challenges that they do. It's a wonderful experience for them, get them into politics in a very positive way. And then throughout the year, depending how engaged they are with their advisor, they'll actually make recommendations to the council. You can give them initiatives to do stuff. It really depends how much you want them to be involved.
Do we have an idea of who might be the adult person that's in charge of them? Because I know they usually have someone that's there holding their hand and showing them.
Well,
In Vernal, isn't it still Quinn Benion's wife that's kind of in charge of that?
She actually stepped down and they're very nervous that it's gonna fold. Because that advisor is the key person. And Quinn's wife did do it for quite a few years.
I'm assuming it'll probably end up being one of the teachers at the high school. I'm assuming it'll be maybe the teacher over the student government, but I'm not positive. And I agree, I think we need to make sure it's the right person, but I was gonna visit with admin at Union, now that I have permission from the superintendent to go in and talk to them about that and see what we can do to get that going. And it doesn't have to be a teacher, like I said, if there's someone in the community that's interested, that could be some sort of like advisor, that kind of thing, that would be great.
And we as staff can lend a lot of support there too.
Right.
So it's not gonna be all bad.
And we're still doing the internship. USU's kind of fallen. I keep bringing it up at USU, but we just don't have the student population to support it. But the high school is still sending interns over, and it's worked really well for them. And you know, it's good the city has flexibility with their schedule, so that's worked really well, and they appreciate that relationship, so.
Councilman Busenbarg, can I just say one thing? I wanted to thank the council members who sent me bios for the city council webpage. I think it'll look really, really good once I have all of them. So if you haven't given me a bio, if you can, please, I think the residents would really appreciate
My
it.
old one's not good enough.
I don't have your old one. I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you get one for me?
No, I did not get one from you either. I wasn't gonna call anybody out, but no, I
You
didn't get one from
know,
you.
you can call me out, I'm okay with that. I thought I gave one to you. Isn't there something?
I did.
Isn't there information on the website with my stuff?
No.
No?
No, when I got here, there were no bios published on the
Okay.
council page. They could be back somewhere in a previous version. I can do some hunting.
I'm almost positive I did that with Lee, but maybe you got lost in the.
I guess is when they changed the website.
That's entirely possible. When they did the redesign, maybe it was gone.
So do you need pictures as well?
I would prefer a picture as well, but I'm not gonna make you do anything you're uncomfortable with.
Okay. Well, I have a picture that's been circulating, well, one that's on the web.
How long does the bio need to be?
Just like a paragraph would be great. I sent out an example. I'm just trying to make it so the residents who don't already know you
I just forgot about it. I thought I'd done
of
it.
where you're from and why you're on the council.
You got mine?
No.
You didn't get mine?
No, I don't have yours. Okay.
So it sounds like we're getting called out here and we should be, and I'm okay with that. So thank you, Sunshine, and I will work on that. Better put a note in my.
You do have Dave's bio, you just don't have his picture.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, you do have, okay, good, because I'm like, I did the same thing.
Oh, sorry. I do have that one. You're right.
Will you do mine too?
Yeah. You want to do one day while you're at it? All right, well, I appreciate that update on that, so thank you. Is there any other items for future discussion on the council, or do we need a closed session tonight? No closed session, okay. I'll entertain a motion unless someone else has something.
I move that we adjourn.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Goodrich to adjourn. Second by Councilman White, all in favor? Aye.